let's just go into the ballot question related to leaf blowers. This is on the agenda at my request, and the way I'd like to start this is I'd like to first ask Juliana, if you don't mind, explain the option which is available to, for lack of a better term, the landscapers at this point in terms of the town meeting warrant article.
Sure. Well, there's a state law, Chapter 43A, Section 10, which applies in towns that have representative town meeting, such as Arlington. And what that does is it puts in a little bit of a waiting period after the close of a town meeting where certain types of votes have been taken, one of which is a bylaw amendment. So it doesn't apply to every type of vote, but it would apply here. And what this provision allows is that if town meeting takes a vote to amend bylaws or make certain levels of appropriations or certain other things, that vote does not go into effect until 7 days, not including Sundays and holidays, have elapsed from the close of town meeting. Now, with respect to bylaw amendments, that's always a little bit different because you've got a 90-day waiting period anyway with the Attorney General, various other things. But that 7-day period is set aside for if there is somebody who's dissatisfied with the vote of town meeting. A petition can be filed by 3% of the town's registered voters. I'm informed by the clerk that 3% of the town's registered voters right now is approximately 864. If that petition is filed within 7 days of the close of town meeting, what that does is requires the Board of Selectmen to schedule a special election forthwith. So because it's a special election, you would need a 14-day waiting period for service of the warrant. You need a little bit of time for preparation of the warrant, but it essentially would have to happen fairly quickly. And the polls would be open from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock or later. But strangely, the way it's set up is really like a half day. So the polls don't open until 2 o'clock. And if there is a 20% voter turnout at that election and a majority of those voting vote essentially to undo the action by town meeting, then that action is reversed. The language of the question is set forth in the statute itself. It's not something that we prepare. It says, what it would say is, shall the town vote to approve the action of the representative town meeting whereby it was voted. Then you put in what was voted, and you put in the quantum of the vote. So essentially, this is not something I've seen, and maybe not something that has been done, but it is a provision that is available. But it's something that the petition would have to be filed by Thursday, and the special election would have to be held relatively quickly. Because if the bylaw amendment were to stand, that is something that has to go to the Attorney General for approval.
Okay.
Just one question on that, and this is my novice reading of state law. Is also inherent in that sort of time guideline that if and when the town Board of Selectmen, town clerk receives the necessary 864 registered voters that are certified. Am I reading the law correctly that the Board of Selectmen has 5 days?
Oh, right.
Could you speak to that?
Yep. It's what the law actually says is, if within 7 days the petition I just described is filed with the Selectmen, asking that the question or questions involved in such a vote, the town meeting vote, be submitted to the registered voters of the town at large, then the Selectmen, after the expiration of 5 days, shall forthwith call a special meeting.
Just so we all know with our schedules, and I assume it doesn't say in state law it's 5 business days, and we have to give the necessary 48 hours. So just so we all have that in our head, if that should come to be. Thank you.
Okay.
You've got the 5 days. You've also got 14 days for service of a warrant, and then, sufficient time to just. I wouldn't know from the clerk's perspective. I know she has to, prepare the ballots and have the machines programmed and things like that. But yeah, it would be something that would need to happen relatively quickly.
Okay. So the reason I put this on the agenda for this evening is, and let me state up front, I was not a town meeting member this year, but if I were, I would have voted against this. So I want to put that out so that people understand. But Mainly, what I want to do is avoid us having to call a special election. We'll certainly hear from landscapers, but I believe they already have enough signatures to call a special election. One of them can speak to that in a minute. But I personally think banning is too dramatic a step to take right away. I would like to propose the following. We, as a Board of Selectmen, have the authority to put a question on the ballot. Based on what I have received since this vote, I believe the majority of Arlingtonians, the residents, are not in favor of this ban. Could be wrong, but I'm just saying in terms of those that I have spoken with since. It is such an important question that was passed by 10 votes when we had about 2/3 of town meeting present. I don't know if it had been voted with a full town meeting there, whether the vote would have been different. But I think getting the opinion of the citizens of Arlington on a question such as this is worthwhile. So I would recommend we put a question on the ballot as soon as possible. That probably means in the spring, on the spring ballot. The second thing I would propose is that we put together a committee of the proponents of this, whether it's Mr. Radosha or Ms. Band or myself, Mr. Chapdelaine, probably Christine Connolly, who would be the one who would be empowered to enforce this, and 2 or 3 landscape, those who could speak to that side of the issue, and together try and come up with a compromise, a warrant article that I would sponsor putting before town meeting in the spring. In my opinion, that would be more like putting restrictions on it. For example, you can't use a blower before 8 in the morning or after 6 at night. You can't use a blower for more than 15 minutes at a time. Maybe even banning them on Sunday. I'm not saying we're doing this. The committee would be put together to discuss these kind of issues. And my goal, I know people are saying, are we usurping the authority of town meeting? We're the executive branch and we have the authority to put a question on the ballot, and I want to do so to bring it back to town meeting. In the spring, if there is a question on the ballot, and clearly the citizens say they support this ban, then I will be the one to move for no action on the warrant article that I'm recommending this committee try and cobble together before this upcoming town election. If, on the other hand, the citizens are like 60-40, they're against this ban, as I feel that's the kind of feedback I'm getting, then we would propose this warrant article which would amend the ban to these restrictions. So to that end, let me first call on Mrs. Mahan, please.
I'd like to make a motion, and then I'd like to place a question on the table through the chair.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to place the aforementioned leaf blower ballot question on the next available ballot election that this Board of Selectmen can do, as well as to form the committee that the chairman referenced to report back and to produce a warrant article and report back in the spring, with the caveat that if the election results are that the prevailing side is the ban on leaf blowers at all times, that the rest of the action steps, the committee and warrant article will be moved. And then I just have one question after, if I get a second.
Is there a second? For discussion?
For the purpose of discussion, I'll
Right,
second.
at least for discussion, right, thank you. Okay.